Time for another board recap podcast. How are you, Dr. Smith?
I'm grateful that it's warm inside because it is cold outside.
It certainly is. Yeah, reminding us that spring is not quite here
That's
yet.
correct.
So let's talk about last night's school board meeting, if you will. We started, as always, with good news. So we'll take a look at all of the good news items. We had a really great EVSC high school honors event recently. It's at a beautiful venue at the Victory Theater, and this features, our orchestra members, our band members, our choir members. You got to direct a couple of the pieces, so what a great evening.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. Had the privilege of conducting two of the finale numbers, so just outstanding talent on that stage. And just a treat for me to be able to go back and kind of relive one of my
Sure.
passions in life.
And when you get them all together in on one stage, if you will, I mean, you really do realize how much unbelievable talent we have, whether it's band, orchestra, or vocal musicians.
Absolutely.
All right, so continue to move through good news last night. Then, speaking of fine arts, we are in the midst of our spring theater production season. We've already had a couple of these last weekend, and we've got more to come. And, I said this last night, and I know you know this because you were involved with these when you worked in high schools too. So many people are involved, not just the extremely talented stage performers, our high school students, but behind the scenes, parents. I mean, really is amazing to put these productions together.
You bet. Whether it's the high school honors program, all the things, or high school theater, all the things that go on behind the scenes that allow what you see to take place. It is a collaborative team effort.
Yeah, and I've seen people posting on a couple of the shows we had this past weekend on these theater productions, just amazed that the talented students they were able to see and see these high-level shows. Right. So kudos to all of them. So as we move through, we had, once again, you and I always say one of our favorite things, our March Cause for Applause announcement, and this was Ellie Villanueva. She works at Lodge Community School, and just if you talk to anyone there, all she does is help people all the time. In fact, we had to delay the surprise announcements by a couple of minutes because what was she doing? Helping some families in the office. So no surprise there. Moving through, we had a University of Evansville Ace of the Year at McCutcheonville Elementary School. Minnie Matthews has been a primary grade teacher with us for many, many years, and she was named by U of E as the Ace of the Year, so congratulations to her. New Tech, always exciting things going on there, but two things that we lifted last night. They unveiled their new robot. So robotics is really a big thing for them, and their students are so involved with that. And then also they competed recently, I think last weekend, at the state archery tournament where they finished 10th and they had a 4th place individual finisher. So really amazing. And I think you got to see the robot unveiling.
I did, yes. With the archery, that's the highest finish that they've placed so far. And then the robotics competition was held at Princeton, and New Tech and North both did a great job with their robotics teams.
Yeah, really. And that's something else, too. I know a lot of parents behind the scenes involvement there, too. So really,
you bet.
Amazing work with that. And then we had the EVSC Winter Guard at the Winter Showcase. And you want to tell us a bit about this? Because I know you got to witness that last weekend.
We're really blessed to have corporation-wide Winter Guards. So we actually have 3 groups this year. We have a beginning group, which is the first time that we've had that with middle school students. And then we had 2 competitive Winter Guards that compete on the state circuit, and both have done extremely well. And finals is actually this coming weekend.
Okay.
Then we also had the winter percussion drum lines, if you will, from North and Wrights compete. And they also compete on the statewide circuit. Both of them are doing an amazing job this year. So lots of things going on.
And but you may see parts of these during the marching band season.
Correct.
But these do not come to an end. These aspects of it, they continue, as we said, through the winter. So
yes, I can speak as a former high school band and orchestra director. The season never ends.
That is correct, which is a benefit for the students, certainly. And then we did a check presentation last night because of the energy savings we've experienced with the Energy Systems Group. And, I mean, it was a significant amount of money.
Over $400,000 in rebates. Right. So not only are we lessening our carbon footprint, this was from installing LED lights in half of our facilities. Now we're going to complete that work, as well as a reduction in our water. So Exciting projects. It's the right thing to do on many different levels, but not least among that is saving dollars.
Absolutely. So we were glad to lift that last night. That took us through good news. And if you will, now take us through consent items.
Absolutely. So item 3.02, consideration allowance of payments in the amount of $11,629,470.73, which is pretty typical now for this time of year. It included one pay as well as taking health insurance premiums. Then looking at item 3.03, consideration to approve grant proposal, So we have a really unique grant proposal here. This is to the Department of Energy, and it is called the Renew America Schools Grant. So this would be actually for over $13 million. $600,000 would be funding that we would put in if we were to receive this grant. But then the balance of the grant would be $12,734,750. So it would be a complete redo of the HVA systems at Glenwood Leadership Academy. And then projects would also include Lincoln, Harwood Facility, Evans, and Culver Family Learning Center. It would replace 188 of our unit ventilators. Those are the in-classroom ventilation systems, as well as several of our chillers. We're excited about this opportunity. We actually are doing this in partnership with the Energy Systems Group. And we did get a letter back of encouragement. We understand that all of the participants that did the preliminary round did not receive that letter. So we're hopeful.
We're very optimistic.
Yes, that this will be funded. So
this would be a wonderful thing if we get it. I mean, truly, we talk about this all the time, but when you're as large of a system as we are, I mean, anything you can do to help with cost savings in the facilities arena and with energy savings, I mean, it's major.
Right. Absolutely. And then we would continue our work with installing O2 Prime, which really neutralizes the harmful aspects that are in the air that could transmit disease and illness.
Okay. Well, we'll keep our fingers crossed on that one.
Absolutely. And then the next four are for the Indiana Department of Education in Title I grants for schools that have been identified as comprehensive support and improvement schools. These are non-competitive grants, and this is an additional year. So we will continue the work that we've already started with those funds. And then we also have an exciting opportunity with the Toyota USA Foundation, specifically with Lodge Community School. And we've been working on this grant for quite some time. Also very excited about that. And really two of the priority areas would be supporting that paradigm shift that integrates our core instructional practices as we work toward increasing STEM educational activities and education for our students. And then also, how do we continue to grow and support and retain outstanding faculty members at Lodge? So that's also very, very exciting, and it would be a rather large grant, and we're hopeful.
Well, a lot of work goes into putting these grant proposals together. I mean, you don't just show up and do these in an afternoon. I mean, if you want to go for these competitive grants, you have to do your due diligence to be in the running for them.
And we are working in partnership actually with Toyota folks. So we're hopeful, but to your point, hundreds and hundreds of hours have been invested in this. So we've also found that just that kind of collaborative collegial work in terms of how do we continue to improve if the grant does not come to fruition, if it doesn't come our way, then we still are better for having undertaken the process.
Right. And great to work with Toyota. We're always lifting great community partners that we're so lucky to have here with EVSC. Definitely.
Absolutely. Item 3.04, consideration to approve the petition to the Indiana Department of Education for the Common School Fund Loan. So we have leveraged this grant for many, many years, nearly $2 million. And what this will do basically will outfit all of the labs, refresh all the labs at the Career and Tech Center. So their project Lead the Way, their cybersecurity, as well as other labs that they have at Career and Tech Center. So that will go a long, long way in refreshing all of the computer systems we have at the Career and Tech Center.
Great. And that wraps up consent items, takes us to consideration of personnel recommendations.
So, as we always say, those recommendations are there for your perusal under item 4.01. And then As we move into action items, 5.01, consideration to adopt policy 4012, which is locating missing children. That was approved by the board. It basically is in alignment with Indiana statute, and it continues to merge the current system that we're using from the Indiana School Boards Association, comprehensive policy management, into what we used to use, which was Neola.
Okay.
Item 5.02, consideration to approve curricular resources for the 23-24 school year. Now, this is quite a bit, but we segmented that into new curriculum vendors as well as renewal of curriculum vendors.
Hey, could you answer a question, Dr. Smith,
Sure.
before you go? There is a lot to this. From your vantage point, though, with your experience, so why is curriculum so vital for our classroom instruction for our teachers?
For so many, many reasons. First of all, we want to guarantee that what one student has the opportunity to learn in a classroom, that if that same class is taught down the hallway, that they have a similar great experience. We do know that putting outstanding curriculum in the hands of outstanding teachers is the winning recipe. And there are lots of resources out there. We do a very exhaustive search, and sometimes we also bring in a partner to make certain that that meta-analysis is undertaken of all the research that's out there that is aligned to Indiana academic standards, and to make certain that all of our students are ready for post-secondary success, and no matter what endeavor they choose to go into after their high school career. So curriculum is incredibly important. It is, as I have said many times, we want to put the best resources into the hands of our teachers.
You really feel committed to that, to making
Absolutely.
sure of all of our teachers that we are providing them with the curriculum so
Right.
they're not out just running around trying to find things to piecemeal instruction. That's not how good practice happens.
I think several things are very important factors here. I know that when Indiana changed standards, I think 3 times in 6 years, that really created chaos.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, they haven't done that recently. But when you do that, then you almost incentivize teachers to go out to other platforms to try to secure
Sure.
their resources for their classroom. And that is not the best way to operate. I mean, I'm not suggesting that teacher pay teacher is a poor practice, but rarely would those be aligned specifically to Indiana
Sure.
academic standards. So I think that's one component. The other thing is everyone has limited time. So if we can provide teachers with outstanding resources as a foundation of what they provide students, not limiting their creativity, but freeing their time up so that they have a good basis to start from, then I think that's a win not only for our teachers, but certainly for our students.
Absolutely. So there's a lot of information here you can dig into if you want to click on this and see this. But I think you did a nice job of summarizing that, because I know that's something you've talked about for many years. You feel very strongly about that.
Absolutely.
And then as you move through, this is an interesting thing. 5.03, tell us about that.
Yeah, we're excited about this. For many, well, I think since we've had student teachers, they have never received any compensation for that. When you think about other pre-professionals, so university students that engage in a internship experience, inevitably they are paid for that internship experience. Not so for student teaching. There actually is a law in the books that prohibits us from paying student teachers for that specific student teacher experience. However, it doesn't prevent us from giving them a stipend to help defray some of their expenses. When you do your student teaching, you typically have a wardrobe that's a little bit different than what you would wear in a university setting. There's travel
Fair
involved.
enough. Yes.
There's
You have to drive
supplies,
to your school.
materials
Yes,
involved.
absolutely.
So all of those things I think we need to take into consideration, and we're providing a $1,500 stipend upon the completion of their student teaching assignment to help defray those expenses. I think the other thing that has changed, we have added a great deal of intentionality about securing student teachers. It used to be we would say, hey, if you'd like to have a great experience, come to EVSC, we're happy to have you. Now we understand the importance of having that pipeline begin earlier with a great deal of intentionality on our part.
Absolutely.
We simply want the best and brightest teachers. So that means that if we get the best and brightest student teachers, then we know from our own research that on any given year, 70 to 80% of our student teachers then are hired by EVSC as full-time employees. So we do know how important this whole process is.
It's really a win-win. It's a win for the student teachers and to develop them, and it's a win for us to develop student teachers who one day are going to be working full-time in our classrooms.
Completely agree. It's also the first of its kind in this region. In addition to that, if you're a pre-service teacher that then does your student teaching assignment with us and we do hire you, then there would be a $500 sign-on bonus, as well as we want to pay our student teacher mentoring teachers a stipend of $1,000. Now, those last two items are subject to approval by ETA, but I certainly hope that they would approve the MOU.
Sure.
To allow us to pay our teachers $1,000, because we also want our best and brightest teachers mentoring our pre-service teachers.
And we appreciate the work they're doing because they are certainly a key player in that development of that future teacher. Absolutely. So looking forward to that. This next item, we're not going to get on our soapbox here necessarily, but vaping's horrible. It's terrible. So tell us about this Juul lawsuit.
Well, that is a short soapbox, but I think that's a good summation.
And it's a fair one.
Yes. And as we know, company actually targeted youth to begin that habit, which is very unfortunate. There was a class action lawsuit nationally, and it was settled. And as a result of that, EVSC will receive a little bit more than $500,000. So that will be used hopefully for prevention activities, but as well as some compensation for the work that we've already done because of students that were exposed to vaping.
Absolutely. And then moving on, two more items in action.
So then 5.05, consideration to award the contract for the Vogel Elementary School Playground Renovation Project of 2023. So this includes the site preparation. The playground equipment is actually on top of this, but the site preparation, that base bid went to Dye Brothers in the amount of $186,900. And then item 5.06, consideration to award the contract to approve the resolution regarding the 2022 district-wide energy savings project. So this was actually brought to the board in July of 2022. We did the first round of the upgrades to the LED lighting. We mentioned that in good news with that $400,000 plus rebate. Now we're going to complete the rest of the LEDs. So that means every LED inside the building and exterior will be replaced. The only exception would be to our field lighting. And interestingly enough,
stadium lighting, that type of thing.
Yes. I thought that those would also be eligible for this because it would be a savings.
Yeah, one would assume so.
But frankly, it isn't because of the cost of the LED, as well as because the stadium lights are not on that much. There really is no cost savings for that.
And so, yeah, I mean, when you think about it, when you change and upgrade to LED lighting to save energy in your home, you have a certain number of light bulbs. As you can imagine, we have quite a few light bulbs when you have 41 schools plus other facilities.
We do have a few when you have about 5.1 million square feet under roof.
Absolutely.
This also includes water efficiency upgrades. And as we know, water bills continue to increase. We are not immune to that. I know there's a pause on that earlier, but pure economics with all the upgrades that are taking place to the water system in Evansville, Vanderbilt County, when those rates do go back up, we'll be in a good position because of these efficiencies that we have put in place.
Absolutely. And then that wraps up action. It looks like we had 6 information items last night.
Yes. So item 6.01, consideration to award the contract for the Central High School wall repair and improvement. So basically, we were boring down to put in hierarchical, I believe that's the right phrase, piers.
You've made a believer out of me, so I'll trust you.
To rebuild those walls because unfortunately they're pulling away a little bit from the building, and we want to make certain that they have a solid foundation. Item 6.02, consideration to award the contract for the Delaware Elementary School overpass renovation project of 2023. So through lots of study, it was determined that EVSC actually owns that overpass. I don't know that too many school districts own an overpass like that, but we apparently do. So it is in need of repair. So the total bid price of $449,200 was awarded to Dye Brothers. So that will be rebuilt. The framework stays in place because it is in good condition, but everything else will be new, will be painted. Additionally, We took a couple of the alternate bids. One is to put a canopy over the front entrance to really identify
Yeah,
this
kind of
as the
beef that up
front
when you
entrance
get
of the
to
school.
Delaware
You
School.
bet. And then also, unfortunately, the dumpster is also very close to the front door, so we're going to put a masonry enclosement there for that dumpster and make certain that the facade and the entry, it looks much better than it does now.
Well, and like we always say with all schools, we want to continue to serve the Delaware community for many, many years. Overpass, great example, because
Right.
students use that whether they're accessing a second playground across the street or an area, or whether just neighborhood students, as they're moving around. We want to make sure that they have a safe way to get across the street there. So that should be in
Bet.
place for many, many years.
You bet. Moving ahead then to item 3 or 6.03, consideration toward the contract for Cedar Hall School interior renovation project. So this is also going to upgrade locks on interior doors as well as upgrading some of the interior surfaces. Some of the surfaces, unfortunately, were residential grade, and in that commercial building, we want to make certain that is up to the fit and finish that we expect for a commercial.
Any school gets its fair
You
share
bet.
of usage and wear and tear when you have a lot of
Absolutely.
students in the building.
Yeah. So total price for that's $891,000. What is interesting with this, the source of funding is the refunding of the bond issue that we say refunding of the bond series of 2019, which actually refunded the 2009 bond series. In 2019, financial climate and considerations were better than they were in 2009. Bonds are eligible then to be refunded after you've had them for a decade. So we found it to be very conducive to refund these. So actually, the benefit of that is we were able to obtain about $2 million in working capital, and with no additional tax for our family. So that means that we can pay for this project with those proceeds.
I hear you saying that's a win.
That is a win. Consideration then to award middle school Chromebook bids from item 6.04. So it is once again time to refresh our Chromebooks for middle schools. So I think this is also interesting in that this is not technically the low bid, but it is the best value when you look at the low bid. So the bid, the recommendation is for RTI for $410.20, would also include the insurance. What is good about this is it is insurance that would repair the Chromebook. The next lowest bid, or the very lowest bid, ProSys, actually would only allow repairs up to the value of the Chromebook. Additionally, this not only, so ProSource met the base bid, RTI met the base bid, but also went above it with 2 times the memory and also an additional year. So because of that, for $3.90 per unit, it was, I think, very, very conducive for us to accept that bid and to make that recommendation, because this is an action or an information item.
Well, and for a recommendation like this, we certainly take that very seriously. I mean, this is a lot of students when you talk middle school students with these take-home devices, and we want to make sure that we are set up and they have the devices they need, and we've taken everything into consideration.
Absolutely. Moving forward then to item 6.05, consideration to approve the new WeCare rates. So we have a phenomenal
what is
WeCare.
WeCare if you're
It's
not
infant
familiar?
and toddler and preschool services for our employees' children.
Yes.
We know that we have many younger families that have need for care for their infants and toddlers as well as their preschoolers. So this is our program, as I said, for our employees' kids. So what we did was we went out and looked at a comparison of what other centers are that are also level 4 NACE accredited.
Yeah, real
centers.
apples comparison.
That's right. So in Center A, $225 a week, Center B, $235 a week, Center C, $230 a week for infant care. Our current charge for our employees is $175, $60 a week less than other centers in Evansville. And then we did the same for toddlers as well as pre-K. The other thing that we have is we also have non-paid weeks during the calendar year, during the work year for teachers. For instance, spring break and the 2 weeks at winter break. We're now adding a 6th week, fall break, and then Thanksgiving break. So that is, I think, a great benefit for our employees, as well as they don't have to pay for an existing spot throughout the summer months.
And that's huge, because most people that have childcare or early learning programs like this will tell you that it's kind of a use it or you pay whether you use it or not
Right.
to hold your spot.
Right. So the recommendation is to go up $10 a week for infant care, remain the same for toddler care as we are currently charging, and then to go up $10 a week for pre-K. And as I said, and then to add that 6th week of non-tuition. So we think that still is an outstanding value. It is
Pretty unique, too. I don't think a lot of districts in the state are doing this.
I guarantee you they don't. A standalone daycare and infant and toddler program.
Quality early learning,
Right.
absolutely.
Solely for their employees. I think that is pretty much unheard of.
Absolutely. And then one more item in information.
So then consideration to approve the agreement with 10 Adams. As you know, we have phenomenal folks that have developed resources along that are aligned, that are aligned with our GAIN framework. And they are experts in developing that content, maybe not experts in warehousing that content and organizing it to
and there's a lot of content there.
Tremendous amount per grade level, per topic. So we've utilized the services of 10 Adams before. They do a great job for us. So they are going to basically develop the website, the messaging, online portal of all the existing content. And then they're going to do that through a process that they have found to be very beneficial in terms of reaching out to your teachers, determining how it needs to be organized through focus groups and various means, so that it is as intuitive as possible and minimal clicks to get to where you want to go.
Yeah, if we have great information, which we do, we want to make it where people can very easily access that information without getting frustrated. So that took us through information. Then we had continued business, and I know one thing you lifted last night was Hall of Fame recently.
Yes, this is the 7th different Hall of Fame class.
And wow comes to mind is the word that really sticks out to me.
Certainly does. Just on a wide variety of individuals. 13 were inducted into the Hall of Fame, and just such shining examples to our current students of what our former students have accomplished in their life. AC, Anthony Calhoun, student at Bossy, when I was a teacher at Bossy, gave one of the keynotes. Man, you want to talk about an outstanding individual.
Who has achieved great success in his career in Indianapolis and broadcast media with sports.
Yeah, very humble. He's just got the kind of personality, though, that you want to be around.
He came and spoke to Bossy
he did.
on the day of the event, actually, wanted to talk to the students there.
Yeah, and was incredibly complimentary of Bossy and Mr. Huff, their principal. So Hall of Fame just fills you with pride.
And all these people, not just incredible success in their endeavors, their careers, but the sense of giving. I mean, you would think, well, that took all of their time. No, they were still very active either in our local community or the communities where they were residing and involved with so many things. So, I mean, Hall of Fame is a special term. All 13 of these individuals certainly met that mark, I think.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, that was definitely a great evening. And I think that wraps up last night's school board meeting, unless you had something else you wanted to share.
Well, there were some other things I think I mentioned in terms of just continuing business. This past weekend, my wife and I attended the robotics competition up at Princeton, as we mentioned earlier, but also the Medical Professions Academy. They had their end of the week banquet.
End of the week of what? Tell us about that. I'm glad you brought that up.
Hospital and health systems, great to host our students from Medical Professions
Another great
Academy,
partner.
juniors.
Yes.
They spent the night there, so 5 nights, very intense. I think certainly 12-hour days at a minimum for our students. And such an enriching experience for all of them. They
Unbelievable
saw birth,
experience.
They saw death. They saw that patient care is at the heart of everything that Deaconess does. So they are exposed to opportunities that you don't get until you're in med school, and these are juniors in high school. Also, spring musicals, as you mentioned. We had the Winter's Showcase, which features our Winter Guard and then our 2 percussion lines, as we mentioned in Good News. But then also All-State Band Weekend was this weekend. So we had many of our students up in Indianapolis rehearsing and performing in All-State Band.
And I just saw, I think I just saw something about our radio TV students. They were competing and they did very well from WPSR, our own radio station. So, I mean, lots of great things going on involving our students, and that's how it should be.
You bet.
So, a lot of pride.
Also, board member asked me just to recap Hardwood.
Oh, yes.
So I really went through the process of gathering information and evidence and looking at all the options. So just in quick summary, typically students are recommended and are enrolled at Harwood because they have some issues with attendance or they're behind in credits. So for a number of semesters, we did an analysis and actually found out that attendance for the majority of students declined after they were there, as well as credits and also declined after they were there. And so we started having conversations with Hardwood beginning in May of 2021. The other thing, though, that is so important with this is with the new graduation requirements for high school students that went into effect with this graduating class.
And it's really a game changer.
It is. So those grad pathways are very difficult for students to get if they start in one grad pathway and then have to complete another, because there are 6 credit hours that are required of that grad pathway, and it's difficult to start over. So
And
actually,
that's a state requirement.
it is a state requirement. So now you not only have to earn the credits to be awarded your diploma, you also have to demonstrate post-secondary competencies as well as employment skills. Those 3 buckets then have to be completed before you actually can graduate from high school. So it's no longer the awarding of a diploma, it's completing all 3 of those buckets for high school graduation. I think the other thing that really was a key factor in this decision, once high school principals in the traditional schools saw that it would be difficult, if not impossible, for future students to be able to graduate from Harwood, they really stopped recommending students go to Harwood. So we actually only had a total of 32 students that were recommended and enrolled in Harwood, which is only 15% from previous years. So then when we looked to staff Harwood, they would have only had 8 teachers. And that's not just based upon enrollment, 8 teachers because of the licensing of those teachers in order to award credits. So it's difficult to run a high school with only 8 teachers. So because of the low enrollment, because of all of those other factors, we thought it would be best to keep the strengths of Harwood and then to deploy additional resources in our traditional schools in what we're calling Harwood Centers. So those Harwood Centers will be available for our students to meet whatever need those students have. If they need a smaller environment, then we will have 2 classrooms and a hallway where that will be their high school experience. If they need some additional tutoring or resource, that's what they will do. If they need credit recovery, then they can be in the Harwood Centers for the entire day. Whatever students need, they will receive, and they won't have to be pulled out of their traditional school and sent to a different school. It also allows them to remain in their extracurricular and co-curricular activities, as long as they're eligible for that, to go to dances, things like that.
Be in the building with their friends that they
Right,
grew
to
up with.
continue to have that high school experience. So,
And those are going to be in, I think you said this, but in all 5 traditional
Correct.
schools. So
Yeah.
no matter where you go, you'll have access, if you need it, to Harwood Center.
right. So we met with all the students last week that were in attendance at Harwood, reaching out to the parents this week as a follow-up of the conversations that were had last week. And then all of our principals are having teams that will actually go to Harwood next week to welcome them back to their schools.
Yeah, definitely not a one size fits all approach. And we're really, as you said, wanting to make sure that we take what was so successful about Harwood, a key part of that, the dedication, the support, the relationships,
Right.
and embed that in each of these Harwood centers. So really that school within a school model, we are hoping to support all of the students who need that in even a higher level than they have been
You
accustomed
bet.
to in the past.
Because the Harwood staff then will go into our traditional schools.
Okay. So again, we've used the term a win several times in this podcast. That sounds like a win as
Yeah.
well. So
I understand it's change, and sometimes
Change is
it's very
hard.
difficult,
Sure.
but this will be an improvement for more
Absolutely.
students.
Okay, well said. Well, I think that wraps up. We covered quite a bit of ground at this
We
meeting.
did.
So appreciate you going through this with us, Dr. Smith, and we will talk to you in the month of April.
Great. Thank you.